Welcome back to Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And of course, rookie mini camps have begun and ended. And of course, the AFC South, there's a lot of attention to a few different teams. One of those teams being the Jacksonville Jaguars. And covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, I want to get a little unique perspective on the Jacksonville Jaguars, the rookie minicap, just kind of what's going on in Jacksonville with all the hype around. They signing everybody, doling out checks, bringing everybody in like they the NWA. For those that love wrestling, you know that one. But anyway, I wanted to bring in Mr. John Reid. He is the Jaguars beat writer down there in is it Jacksonville.com or is it Florida Times Union? Florida Times Union. Okay. Sorry, had a momentary memory
Florida
lapse.
Times Union, but the website is Jacksonville.com.
That's what I did. I messed around and got both of them. Sorry about that. But anyway, from the Florida Times Union, Jacksonville.com, Mr. John Reid. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Just getting through the off season, getting through OTAs, and we got veteran minicamp coming up on June 13th, and then after that we get a break and training camp start on the July 24th.
Well, I tell you what, you say getting through the off season. I say enjoying the excitement because they had the number one overall pick down there,
Yeah,
Mister
but
Travon Walker. Now, how did he look at rookie minicamp? Did you get a chance to take a look at him?
yeah, I looked at him for 2 days that those practices was open, and yeah, man, I say this: he's not a hard guy not to notice. I mean, a lot of people say that you don't really take a number one pick based on projections. You base it on basically that you can feel from what his what made the progress that was made during the college season. You shouldn't have any questions. There was also this talk about and it never been a number one pick who wasn't an all conference or all American. But believe me, man, I know football. I know a player when I see a player. And a lot of people just don't understand when you got a stockpile of talent like Georgia had that you don't need a 10 sack guy on a team where you got 5 first round picks on coming off that defense. But watching him, I mean, it's just amazing to me for a guy that big and can run that fast and that powerful. I mean, a lot of it's hard to estimate. Obviously they wasn't in full pads. Obviously they wasn't hitting. But man, let me say this: it would be a total shock if this kid doesn't perform at the level of a number one overall pick. From what I seen, I mean, it's
Hmm.
just his I mean, when you look at his wing, just the natural gifts that he's got, that ain't no coaching in the world is going to bring some of the attributes that he has. He has this the wingspan, number one. It's just noticeable, you know.
Right.
And then you look at the fact that there was a play that they had. They were going through team drills on Saturday, and he dropped back in coverage, and the quarterback EJ Perry that they got from Brown University. He was about to check down to a receiver, and I would say that Travon probably was about, I don't know, probably about 8 yards from the running back before he looked at he was about to throw to him, and he made up a his recovery speed to get on the back to cover him took about, I don't know, maybe a second. He was there, and if that was a live play in pads, they might have been taking that running back off the field on the stretcher. This guy. I mean, I've watched football a long time. I don't think I've never seen a guy that looks like a tackle but runs like a strong safety. I mean, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I've never seen a guy in my own eye. I mean, I've seen a lot of football, watched it on television and those kind of things. But when you look at live and just see a 200 and, this kid 260, 6'5", and I mean, he's got a frame that he could add 30 35 to 40 pounds, and you wouldn't even notice it.
Mm.
And I just never seen a guy that can drop that get back that quick in coverage. Number one, agility. I mean, he runs a 4.5 140, and everything that he does, it just looks quick. It looks powerful, looks quick. And I was standing there watching him, and I'm thinking about, well, Josh Allen is a big kid playing outside linebacker. I mean, he's big, strong, cut, ripped, you name it. He looks like a linebacker. And this kid, I mean, Travon is, I mean, he looks double the size of Josh.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I've just never seen. I mean, he's built like a defensive lineman, but runs like a defensive back. And
Wow.
I've never been a fan of Trent Baalke. The only question that I would have on right now, just watching him or watching Travon right now after 2 days of rookie mini camp, is the only thing that you can't prejudge that he may not have is being instinctive. How do you get off a block and get himself in position to make plays? Other than that, I don't see how they're going to block this. Not, not exaggerating. I'm just a powerful, strong, run. I mean, he's got all those physical attributes. And if they put him in position to be successful and put him, line him up. I mean, they're working in some things where he's lining up on either side. He's playing exclusively at outside linebacker, but he's also playing up on the line of scrimmage, like a real outside linebacker. But
Mhm.
other than that, I just don't see how the kid cannot be successful, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Hmm. Yeah, it's a lot to be said about him. But outside of Walker, Travon Walker, what was were there any more impressive? What was the most impressive, I should say, rookie that was there?
Well, they all kind of was. I mean, it's just so hard to see a whole lot because they wasn't doing a whole lot other than running around in shorts. But I see, you look at a Devin Lloyd, you look at Chad Muma, you see both those guys running to the ball. Both of them athletic. Both of them look like they look like they're a good connection playing together at linebacker. Those two guys probably stood out. I mean, they're as far as other young players on the defense. I mean, you can immediately look at both those guys and say that they're a little cut above from some of these. They only had like undrafted free agents and some tryout guys, and then the seven players that they had and that they selected in the draft. But to me, it just seems like they pick up things quick, especially Chad. Just seems like, I don't know how much of the defense assignments was in, coming in, I think the day before and going to work on the field for the first time. But it just seems like they knew what they were doing. They knew that their pursuit was quick. They didn't, no play was stopped and, stop so they can be explained where to go and those kind of things. Just seemed like they caught on very quick for the little limited amount of defense that they were given, and they just look athletic. They look, especially Devin Lloyd. He just looks quick, fast, big.
Well, that's a good thing,
Yeah.
definitely for for a linebacker and definitely for a team that needs more playmakers. Of course, speaking of guys to watch as well, I think one guy I watch, and I think they will step in, probably be a Luke Fortner from Kentucky. That's an
Yeah.
offensive lineman. I think he's going to definitely be a guy to watch and probably could start at center for them potentially this year as a rookie.
Yeah, well, I would almost say that he probably is going to start. I think that, obviously Brandon Linder retired, and I think they drafted him to start.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about an SEC performer. He's a big kid. I think, I mean, they got Tyler Shatley, but it could be looking more at him just continue to be that guy who could play guard and center if an
Mhm.
injury comes or something like that happens to the offensive line. Actually, they might look at Tyler Shatley more at the left guard spot because I think that's the biggest question right now going into the rest of these OTAs and going into training camp is who's going to play the left guard position, who's going to
Right.
replace Andrew Norwell. But the kid looked good. Fortner looked good. I mean, big, strong kid, um, very smart. He got about 4 degrees, so you don't have to tell him something 3 times for him to get it. So I think I project that he would probably step in and be the starting center. And he looks like he should be that guy. You know, he just seems look. It looks like I always say guys that play in the SEC and you're looking at what he's a third round pick and you have all these expectations and you done played you done started 2-3 years in the SEC. I don't think it's that difficult adjustment, and it don't look like it was nothing of an adjustment for this kid during the 2 days that I saw him. So
Right.
I think he's
Right.
going to just jump in that position and be a starter.
Got you. Got you. Now, of course, speaking of starters and speaking of bringing people to jump in, the Jacksonville Jaguars definitely jumped all into free agency.
Yeah,
they,
yeah, they did.
they got Evan Ingram at tight end. They have Foley Fatukasi, defense tackle from the Jets. Zay Jones, wide receiver Raiders. Christian Kirk from the Cardinals. I mean, Brandon Sheriff. Foye Olukon, that linebacker from Atlanta. I mean, Brandon Sheriff, offensive guard. I mean, all of these people, bringing in. Which one of those, in your opinion, do you think will probably be the most effective of the guys that they're bringing in, or the most needed of the guys they're bringing
Well, I think they all need it.
in?
I actually think they need even a little more at wide receiver. But I mean, let's talk a little bit about the history of the Jaguars. They've had a lot of problems at tight end. I mean, I've counted some of the numbers. I can remember back in 2018 where they had 4 tight ends, and I believe out of the 4 they combined for 3 touchdown catches. And I think a guy like Evan Ingram, I mean, I think he can be I know he had some problems in his past with drop passes, but I think for us having a player that you could play in the slot, you could play him outside. I think he's a matchup nightmare for opponents. I think he plays the position more as a receiver than he does as a tight end. And Doug Peterson is a coach who likes to play double tight ends. They do have a decent tight end already on that roster with Dan Arnold, but I think if you add all the different things that a guy like Evan can bring to the table, and I think that I think one of the problems last season was that Trevor didn't have like a check down guy that was effective. I think they need that, but I also think they need something to just change their look to give the defense some issue to change things
Create
up.
conflict.
Yeah, create conflict and just make some matchup issues. I don't think they had enough matchup issues last season, particularly at tight end or wide receiver. So I think you
Right.
bring this guy, you can put him on the outside, play him in the slot. I think that he could be a big difference maker. I'm waiting to see what Christian Kirk can do. To be honest, I think.
I was gonna ask you about him and your thoughts on him. By the way.
Well, I think all you hear now is what all the criticism was about him. He's the guy that set the market price for he set a new value for wide receivers. And a lot of, I mean, the argument is he's never been a number one receiver in his whole career. He's basically just been a slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the Jaguars are expecting him to just be a number 2 guy or just a slot receiver. I think you're going to see him play in the slide, outside, whatever, bunch set, whatever it is. And I think you're going to see him get a lot of targets, and I can recall the second game of the season they played Arizona, and I can remember a couple of times in that game where he got separation very quick. He got great hands. He doesn't drop the ball much, and I just think this team needs weapons. I think he can be a good weapon. I mean, he has to be a good weapon. He has to justify a 4 year, $72 million contract. But I think the one mistake that they made in the draft, nothing wrong drafting 5 out of the 7 as defensive players. But when you the lowest scoring offensive team in the league like this team was last year, and you really had a problem with you had a lack of playmakers, and I know the price was big to move up and grab a guy like Devin Lloyd. Not having that second round pick to grab a receiver might hurt this team. I thought they should have went out and maybe got a pick in George Pickens, a kid that can run a big tall target for Trevor Lawrence. So I think that's the issue. And I'm also looking to see how much of impact can Jay Jones be. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. A lot of people don't think he is deserving of that contract. He didn't really stand out with the Raiders, and he's getting a whole lot of money here in Jacksonville. So, a lot of talk is that he's the replacement for DJ Chark, who's now up in Detroit. And there's not a lot of separation between those two guys as far as what they can do, their ability, and those kind of things. But if you would ask me like what other free agents has the most pressure, I think he has a lot of pressure to produce.
I think both of them, man, in Kirk and in Zay Jones, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, Now, of course, the players weren't the only changes that happened this all season. The coaching regime is with Doug Peterson. So, what is the feeling around there this year as opposed to going into last year?
Well, Mike, the biggest thing is just professionalism. That's the biggest thing. I mean, you hear. I spent a half a day with Shaq Griffith 2 weeks ago, and one of the biggest things he said is that we got a coaching staff that doesn't treat us like little kids. We don't. We're not in this college environment no more where we got to have some guy on the staff announce when we got to take a hydrate and water break and just. I mean, we done talked about on your show just how bad it was with Urban Meyer, but just when a head coach come out publicly, like Doug Peterson said Friday, that he's got a football team that has to heal, and he's got to watch everything he do not to break the bond of trust. That's all that was broken from an Urban Meyer. You still got carryover issues. I mean, we still talking about a kicker here who's, not taking the Players Association route, but taking it to the court and suing the franchise. I mean, do you know any other franchise where a player that was cut sued a team because he got kicked by the former head coach, and it's still? This happened in August when he got kicked, and it came out publicly in December, and like 24 hours later, Urban Meyer lost his job. But to have that stuff trickle down in 2022, I mean, you got some problems, and I think that what helps the situation is you got professional coaches on this staff. You got a lot of assistants who are former players. And the biggest problem, the biggest difference I just see, you watch Doug Peterson. He's a coach. He's not. I mean, I can go back last year, and I think Urban Meyer just did things because the media was out there watching him and watching practice. And Doug Peterson. I mean, he's in the background. He's watching everything. He's clapping. He's getting his guys, boosted, and he sees everything. But he's not. He's not he don't want the spotlight. Not in that way. I mean, he wants the spotlight if they win, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not craving. He's not, he's not putting on an act or a show just because the cameras are at practice. And he's honest with his players. He's not going to tell his players something in April and then it comes right now, May, and what he said in April is totally different from what his actions are a month later. And those were the issues with Urban. And then you just have you got a head football coach who's been there. He's not
Mm-hmm.
working his first NFL gig. He's a NFL head coach who won a Super Bowl. And I just think when you look at you look at the mini camp, you look at the things that he's done, you look at the aggressiveness that a lot of people criticize their free agency, but I will say this: they were aggressive, they were active, not reactive, and they get criticized for the draft, but they feel needs that they have to have on that defensive side. You look at their schedule. And you got a week where you got to play Dallas, you got to play Kansas City, you got to play every team in the AFC West. And if you don't have linebackers or defensive backs who can stop or get pressure up front with your front seven, then no matter how good your offense is, you're not going to keep teams out of the end zone. So I think they solved half of the battle. I think they got a more aggressive defense that can maybe do a better job containing teams, at least forcing third and longs and not giving up touchdowns. So I, I,
Right.
I think right now, I think they're in a good place right now. I think, but this is, believe me, man, this is not going to be like the one thing I've always said about Jacksonville. In the off season, the optimism grows too high here in this city. It grows too high. I don't know if it's from the draft or just the fact that the season the season before has just been so bad that you got to have optimism. But if they go, you look for a team that went 3-14. If they get 7 wins, that's a win, man. This is not going to be a fix where Doug Peterson come in here and take this team to the playoffs. It's not. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that cup was almost bare. I mean, they got to get roster to a point
Mm-hmm.
where you got a backup that's not that much far from the starter as far as talent wise, so you don't have a drop off if a starter get hurt. And I like the fact that they upgraded their linebackers. I like the fact that they got better defensive linemen. I still got concerns about the depth at the offensive line. I got concerns about not having enough speed at wide receiver, not having a big outside target for Trevor Lawrence. I'm concerned about their running backs. You got two of your top running backs coming off major injuries, and you draft Snoop Connor. I mean, pretty serviceable, but he's more of a short yardage guy. And I don't think this team really knows when James Robinson coming back from Achilles tendon. All I know is from covering the NBA and guys got that injury, that was almost like a 9-month injury to get back in anything looking like he was before. So I
Mm-hmm.
think they got some issues, but I just like the professionalism, and I think that's the best thing you can say about this team right now. I think that it's not so much dysfunction is gone, and I think it's more professionalism. But they got a long ways to go as far as talent building, roster building, and getting more talent on this team.
Got you. And I'm definitely rooting for James Robinson. I mean, I personally think he'll be ready to go when the season comes around, and him and ETN will probably be sharing some carries,
Yeah,
if not 60-40 towards James Robinson or 70-30. But that's just my thinking. Hey, I could be wrong. And of course, you were there covering the team, so you would probably know more than me. And also, I would say that it's definitely good to have a lot of positivity and a lot not of the negativity which a lot of people brought around with Urban Meyer in terms of just his whole demeanor about being the coach of the team. And we're going to keep an eye on the team here at the show. We're going to keep an eye on the team, the outlook, probably revisit everything when camps roll around. But it's good to hear that they have some players in, have some free agents they brought in, and that Doug Peterson has come in and actually, kind of reinvigorated the squad. But definitely it's been good talking to Jacksonville Jaguars and the team and the rookies and the free agents. But I want to play a little game with you if you don't mind.
All right, man. I ain't got a choice, so let's go.
Well, here we go. We have two all-time Jaguar running backs.
Yep.
Depends on which one you like. Fred Taylor or Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah. Well, you asked me that question. I like Fred Taylor better.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Fred Taylor, I keep hearing him stomping about the Hall of Fame, and hey, I'm not even mad at him. He should eventually be there, in my opinion. But
well, I'll take it to this, man. I really feel that out of all the players in the history of their history since '95, I really feel Fred Taylor had the most impact. I know Tony Pacelli is going into the Hall in August, but when you look back at what this guy did and the amount of years that it took him to do it, and all you got to do is put that tape back on and watch that playoff game against Miami. That shit tells you everything you need to know about Fred Taylor. And I don't know for what reason, that maybe it's just Jacksonville, small market, or whatever it may be, but I don't think the guy get anything what he should deserve of getting for what the impact he made on that franchise. For whatever reason, I don't know, but it just seems like he's just a second player or something. I mean, this guy's truly a great legend, in my opinion.
Right. He definitely a guy that probably should be wearing a gold jacket soon. Up next, which free agent do you feel will have the better impact? Would it be Darius Williams from the Los Angeles Rams or Arden Key from the San Francisco 49ers?
I don't know, but that's a tough question there, man. I like Darius Williams. I feel that it just so, I mean, when you don't know what all his talent is when you really look at what happened with the Rams, and I mean, he's playing on a team with Jalen Ramsey, so he's been overshadowed a lot. And I mean, I think anybody who can come in and play great man-to-man defense like he can, I mean, I think he can have a bigger impact. But Arden can be. I mean, I also take in mind that incentives mean a lot. Here's a guy who on a 1-year deal, coming off a great season with San Francisco, and he needs to have a great season, whether he re-signs with Jacksonville or goes somewhere else. So there's a lot riding on this season for a guy like Key. But I like Williams, just his overall talent, man. I've been watching some tapes and stuff of him when he was with the Rams, and it just seems like he is a guy that came from nowhere. If you really study his background, from playing at UAB to the program loses. I mean, it just seemed like a rag to riches story. And I always like players who had to overcome to get where they're at. Really overcome the odds. And he's a guy that fits that. So I would say Williams would be my guy that's going to have a big impact.
All right. Now I know who you're probably going to pick in this one. Two all-time great Jacksonville wide receivers, Jimmy Smith or Keenan McCardle.
Man, I'll tell you what, I might have to change. I might have to go with Jimmy.
Man, hey, Jimmy was great, man. I still remember him catching that one against the Denver Broncos and then giving the little flair with the little dance in the end zone. I remember that. That was a good one. Now, if you had to pick one running back that you feel will lead the team in rushing next year, just based off of what you think now, Travis Etienne or James Robinson?
Oh, no question. Travis.
Oh, you're going with Travis leading them in rushing?
Yeah.
Wee. Wow.
I feel if James Robinson was not hurt, based on things that I've been hearing, I think Etienne would still start ahead of him.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I mean,
Getting
this
some news
kid
there.
got the bounce back in his step, man. I think he's back. And knock on wood, I hope he doesn't get any, just all the injury stuff is behind him. But he's had 1 year to really learn the game, get stronger. And one thing I noticed, just sneaking in on them, watching some of them work out, he ain't lost. That injury didn't take away his speed. He got his speed, man. And if he got
Oh
the
man.
same thing you see in Clemson, that he got cut ability and can break away speed, hey, they'll find a way to use him. He's going to be used the right way with this coaching staff. But his explosiveness is he's got way more explosiveness than James Robinson. So
Right, right. And last one. Who's going to lead the team in sacks if you had between these two players? Josh Allen or Travon Walker?
no, I would say Josh gonna win that category, but I will say Trevon is not. We're and I said this to some of the reporters last week. When it comes to about week 7, we're going to be asking. The question is going to be, why did not Georgia get all that they could have got out of Trayvon instead of why did Trayvon not be an All SEC um, selection? I think the
Uh,
question is going to be is why they just didn't make this kid a guy that can go out and get the quarterback. But I
mm,
think Josh going to have a big year. I think when you put more talent on the field, obviously they got more defensive talent. And when you look back on Josh Allen's rookie year when he had 10.5 sacks, when they had Calais Campbell, they had Yannick, those are the reasons why he had 10.5 sacks. so, so you can move him around and just let him be that caliber of player. I think that he'll have 2 more sacks than Trayvon.
okay. Well, there we have it. There we have it. All right. Well, I just want to thank you again for your time. I know you're busy doing a few different things. If you can, let everyone know where they can find you, what all things you're working on, whatever you want to tell everyone.
Well, I like to say that I'm in lovely Thomaston, Georgia right now. I'm working on a long takeout piece for trying to write a story about what makes this kid go, man. I think you have to find out players. You have to find out from where they're from. I think you have to find out what they had to overcome. I think you have to find out what type of person they were in high school and those kind of things. So it's a long takeout story, but I love those kind of stories. Those are stories that's not, just the XOs and what do they do on the field, but kind of looking back at the background. But you can catch all the stuff that I write on Jacksonville.com. And we, like I say, I'm trying to get through the off season, man. Because to be honest, Mike, this has been a long off season, my man. We done had a coach search. We done had a coach firing over these. There's no break in the NFL, but this has been one of the toughest, I would say, like 9-month stretch in my career. I've been in this business for 35 years. And when you have all the dysfunction and all that went on, it give you a lot of page views and all those kind of things. But man, it's a lot of work, and in this NFL situation, you don't get breaks. The off season is just as busy as the regular season. So, you have to churn it out and churn it in. But boy, a lot of teams don't have to go through what this franchise have had to endure over
I
the
understand.
since I just say since December when they fired Urban. So
Well, I hear you there. I mean, he's still leaving his mark with the kicker. The kicker is still trying to get his money.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
Urban, the gift that keeps on giving, right?
yeah. Well, if he was smart, they don't want that to get to court because it'll be a whole lot more about Urban that we may not know if that comes out to a jury trial and go to court. So
Right.
they might want to settle out or something, but that could be real ugly for this franchise, which I don't think it'll go to court. It might get thrown out by the judge, but hey, man, they're not talking that about stuff like this and with the Tennessee Titans.
They're still talking a little bit about AJ. Some people are, but other than that, they're not really talking about things like this for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
thank you again. Thank you again for coming on. Thank you everybody for listening and watching. You've been tuned in and watching Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.